My CEO told me I was just the IT guy. When he slashed my salary, I destroyed their company's operations. The stock dropped 62% in one day. Here is the story of how I went from being an IT guy to the man who destroyed a billion-dollar company's stock in one night. And yes, that was perfectly legal. Ryan, a 40-year-old guy. This occurred 6 months ago and I'm still absorbing the complete insanity that ensued. Sometimes, I wake up thinking about how close I was to embracing my fate. But then I recall what occurred, and I fall asleep like a baby. I worked with Apex Solutions for 12 years. I started as a junior systems analyst right out of college and worked my way up to senior infrastructure architect. Sounds classy, right? To most people at the firm, I was still known as the person who serviced printer jams and reset passwords. Let me give you a picture of Apex when I first started. A small firm with maybe 100 people, based in a restored warehouse in Seattle's industrial area. Everyone knew each other, and the CEO remembered your name at workplace picnics. I was 28 years old, fresh out of the University of Washington with a degree in computer science and over $80,000 in student loans hanging over my head. Apex offered me $60,000 a year, which felt like hitting the lottery at the moment. My flat in Fremont was a shoebox with 3 housemates and a mildew-smelling toilet. But I had a job in my profession, which was all that counted. Initially, the task was easy: database maintenance, user assistance, and preventing the network from crashing whenever someone opened too many browser tabs. Our systems were archaic. I'm talking about software from the late 1990s, kept together by duct tape and prayers. The main platform was a behemoth named DataCore Legacy. It managed everything from inventory management to customer billing and project monitoring. The gadget crashed at least twice a week, lost data arbitrarily, and required manual reboots that took 3 hours. We had 6 workers whose sole job was to maintain it operational. I spent the first 2 years of my career understanding the system inside and out. Every quirk, bug, and workaround. I got pretty excellent at explaining to furious department directors why their quarterly reports vanished into thin air. Here's something nobody knew. 5 years into my tenure, I created something remarkable. Year 5 was when I reached my limit with DataCore. We just lost a significant customer, Patterson Industrial, worth $5 million per year, since our system destroyed 3 months of their project data, which just vanished into the digital ether as if it never was. The CTO at the moment, a man named David, convened an emergency meeting. "We need to modernize," David explained. "DataCore is killing us." Management brought in consultants. 3 separate businesses, each quoting between $18 and $25 million for a thorough revamp. Implementation time: 30 to 48 months. The board rejected all proposals. Too costly, too hazardous, and too lengthy. So we stuck with DataCore, and I remained upset. That's when I started working on something in my spare time. Megan, my girlfriend at the time, was a nurse who worked a rotating shift. She'd go for work, and I'd sit down in my home office setting. Nothing spectacular. Just a PC I built myself and 3 monitors I purchased during Black Friday deals. I would code every night, sometimes until 3 a.m. Weekends were also fair game. Megan despised it. You work all day, then return home and work all night on the same tasks. It is different, I assure her. This is mine. I spent 18 months creating the system from scratch. I learned Python despite having previously only worked with Java and C++. I taught myself 3 distinct frameworks. I watched roughly 400 hours of lectures. I read paperwork till my vision clouded. The structure I created was adaptable. It learned from usage patterns, streamlined its own processes, and scaled autonomously to meet demand. It could easily manage 10 times Apex's current data load. The UI was simple and intuitive. People might use it without needing a handbook or a prayer. I compared it to DataCore using our actual corporate data. My system handled everything 80% quicker and with no problems. 0. But here's what I did to safeguard my future. I created it completely on my own time, with my own tools and resources. I would wake up at 5 a.m., on weekends, put in extra hours. Rather than resting, I spent my vacation days coding. I spent $42,000 of my own money for server time, software licensing, development tools, and training. Megan left me in month 14 of the project. I found myself in the workplace at 11 p.m. on Saturday. I hadn't showered in 2 days and was surrounded by cans of energy drinks and pizza boxes. "I can't do it anymore, Ryan. You are fascinated." She was not mistaken. I was obsessed. However, I was also creating something that would change everything. At 4:17 a.m., I slumped back in my chair, having completed the beta version. She simply gazed at the screen. 18 months of my life, right there, functional, gorgeous, and wonderful. I slept for 14 hours straight after that. When I eventually showed it to David, he nearly fell off his chair. "Ryan, this is great. This is just what we need. Better than any consultant proposal I have seen." "Yes," I said. "I know. How long would implementation take?" "I can have us fully operational in 6 weeks." David's eyes widened. 6 weeks? The consultant answered. "At least 2 years. I created it particularly for our infrastructure." David called an executive meeting the next day, and I did the demo in the main conference room, showing them processing speed, data integrity, scalability, the whole package. The CFO, a woman named Jessica, asked the question I'd been waiting for. "How much will this cost us?" "I'll license it to the company on reasonable terms." "You're licensing it. This isn't company property." That's when I pulled out the documentation my lawyer friend Mark had helped me prepare. Built entirely outside of work hours using personal resources and equipment, it's my intellectual property according to my employment contract, but I'm happy to let Apex use it. Jessica looked at David. Ron looked at the CEO, Michael. Michael looked at me. What are your terms? I'd been thinking about this moment for months, rehearsing it in my head while debugging code at 2 a.m. License it for $60,000 a year adjusted for inflation annually, and I retain full ownership of the patent and code base. Michael nodded slowly. That's more than reasonable, Ryan, and we'd probably pay 10 times that for what you've shown us. I know, I said, but I'm not trying to gouge anyone. I just want protection. Kevin had been very clear about this. Keep the licensing fee reasonable while maintaining ownership, which is your insurance policy. They agreed. We signed the contracts. I got a bonus for the implementation, $15,000 and a plaque that said Innovation Excellence. I'd spent 42 grand building the thing, but whatever. I had my protection, and that's what mattered. The implementation took exactly 6 weeks and 3 days. We shut down DataCore on a Friday night and migrated everything to my system over the weekend. Our help desk tickets dropped by 67% in the first week, and within 6 months the results were undeniable, allowing Apex to take on contracts that had been turned down for years. When people arrived on Monday morning, everything just worked. There were no crashes, errors, or frantic calls to IT about lost data, and they didn't know what to do. In the first year, revenue increased from $55 million to $100 million, and by the second year, it had risen to $150 million. My system handled projects that DataCore would have struggled with, and our client base grew exponentially. Engineering firms came to us for complex data management, while manufacturing companies sought our logistics tracking services. In the third year, the company grew from 100 to over 400 employees, opened offices in Portland and Austin, replaced the original warehouse with a proper corporate building in South Lake Union, and I was promoted to senior infrastructure architect. My salary increased to $100,000, which was reasonable given that I had built the engine that powered the entire operation. In January 2024, Apex hired Ethan Clark, a 34-year-old Stanford MBA with 3 years of experience at a private equity firm where he restructured operational efficiency at 6 different companies. After Michael announced his retirement in December 2023, the board began looking for a dynamic successor to take the company to the next level. Ethan started on February 1st, and I walked into his office for our one-on-one the first week. Michael warned me before he left, and we grabbed coffee near the office. Ryan, keep an eye on Ethan. He's smart, but he doesn't understand what we built. Guy had already rearranged everything, and the walls were covered in motivational posters about embracing disruption. Ryan, good to meet you. He didn't stand up. We talked about my system, and he seemed suspicious of the licensing arrangement. It appears that we're overpaying, even though the system has been in place for years. My jaw tightened because it's my intellectual property. The fee includes ongoing maintenance and updates. Right. We'll revisit that. The second week, Ethan called an all-hands meeting. The conference room was packed, and he stood at the front with a presentation clicker. We need to evolve. If we don't adapt, we die. He clicked to the next slide. My team was lean and efficient, and March 15th began like any other Thursday. He went through 47 slides, and by slide 23, he got to the point. Our technology infrastructure needs to be modernized. We're overstaffed and underperforming. I arrived at the office at 7:45 a.m., grabbed coffee from the lobby machine and checked the overnight system logs. Everything was running perfectly, with 0 errors and 99.97% uptime for the month. At 9:30 a.m., my calendar pinged with a meeting invite from Ethan's assistant. Compensation discussion. Conference room B, 10 a.m. No context, no agenda. Just that. I should have known right then. When I walked in at 10 a.m., Ethan was there with Sarah Mitchell, the new CFO he'd brought in from his previous company, who was in her mid-30s and always looked like she smelled something rotten, and there was this guy in the corner who I'd never seen before. Ryan, have a seat, Ethan said again, not standing up. Power play. I sat down. We're making some changes to our compensation structure. Ethan began that fake friendly tone that made my skin crawl. Part of our operational optimization is moving to a performance-based model that better aligns with industry standards. Sarah slid a folder across the table. These are the new terms. I opened it. My salary was reduced from $100,000 to $70,000, a 25% cut. My annual bonus was eliminated entirely. My health insurance was switched to a high-deductible plan, which required me to pay $7,000 out of pocket before coverage began. My vacation days were reduced from 20 to 12. I looked up. This is a joke, right? These are market rate corrections, Sarah said, clinically, as if she were reading from a script. We've analyzed comparable positions across the industry, and I built the entire system this company runs on. Ethan smiled. Not friendly, condescending, and we appreciate his contribution. But that was 5 years ago, Ryan. This is about current value, not past accomplishments. The system runs everything, every single department, every client contract, all on my platform. Yes, we license it, but it's integrated into company operations. It's not like you're actively developing new features. I stared at him. I maintain it, I update it, and I ensure 99.9% uptime. That's active work that frankly doesn't require your current compensation level. Ryan, let's be realistic about your position here. You're in IT technical support. You're a valuable member of the team, but you're not mission critical. You're in IT, not mission critical. I'd pulled all-nighters when systems went down, canceled family events to fix emergencies, and built something from the ground up that transformed the entire company from a struggling mid-tier operation into a regional powerhouse. And this guy, who'd only been here for 8 weeks, told me I wasn't mission critical. What about everyone else? I asked. Is this happening across the board? The technical staff will see similar adjustments, Sarah said. Directors and above will keep their current packages, right? So the guys actually doing the work get gutted while management keeps their full salaries. If I don't agree to these terms, Ethan's smile got sharper. Then we'd have to seriously evaluate your position at Apex. These changes are happening. The only question is whether you're part of the future here. The lawyer in the corner slid papers across the table. Sign here, here, and here. Changes effective April 1st. I looked at those documents, thinking about my licensing agreement, that very specific clause Mark had insisted on. Ryan, this isn't really a negotiation. They were about to breach the contract unilaterally, and the license was only valid if they continued to work in good standing and maintained the agreed-upon compensation structure. We've taken a business judgment based on market analysis and operational demands, so that's a no, and we need your signature today. I gazed at him, and he stared back. Sarah checked her watch, as if my job was less important than her lunch reservation. Ryan, Ethan said, and his tone shifted harder. Now let me be very clear. You fix computers, reset passwords, and keep systems running. That's important work, but it's not strategic, it's not leadership, and you're not irreplaceable. You fix computers. 9 years at this company, a system that generated $150 million in direct revenue and supported another $400 million in operations. I'd given up a relationship, countless nights of sleep, and thousands of dollars, and to this Stanford MBA who'd been here 2 months, I was just the guy who fixed computers. You're making a mistake, I said quietly. No, Ryan. We're making the right business decision, and you're going to sign these papers, or you'll find yourself making a very different kind of decision. The threat was clear. I picked up the pen, signed every page, and Ethan smiled. Excellent. Welcome to Apex 2.0. I stood up and walked out, my hands shaking not from fear, but from pure concentrated rage. I returned to my office, closed the door, sat down at my desk, and stared at my computer screen for probably 5 minutes without moving. David knocked on the door and entered without waiting for an answer. Ryan, I just heard. I'm sorry. I fought against this, but Ethan's convinced the board that it's necessary. It's fine. I lied. It's not fine. It's garbage. You built this place. Apparently I just fixed computers. David winced. He said that word for word. Ryan. David looked genuinely conflicted. I'm trying to push back where I can, but he has authority that I no longer have. New organizational structure. I report to him now. I understand. David left. I sat there for another 10 minutes, then I pulled out my phone and called Mark. Hey man, what's up? I need to see you tonight. It's important. I barely functioned the rest of the day, answering tickets on autopilot, avoiding everyone, and leaving at exactly 5 p.m. I met Mark at Stella's Coffee near his downtown office, where he was already working on his laptop. Corporate law is always grinding. I sat down and explained everything. The meeting, the pay cut, Ethan's comments, word for word. Mark listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he just sat there for a second. Do you still have your licensing agreement? Yes. Why? Pull it up. I opened my email, found the signed contract, and showed it to him. Ryan, do you understand what you have here? A contract, a nuclear option. He pointed to Clause 7, Subsection 3, license valid contingent on continued employment in good standing and maintenance of agreed-upon compensation structure. That's the protection we put in, Ryan. They just breached this contract unilaterally and reduced your compensation. That directly violates the licensing terms. You can revoke their license immediately. The weight of that hit me like a truck. What happens if I do that? Mark leaned back, that lawyer's grin growing wider. Their entire system stops working. They can't access your software, process data, fulfill contracts, or operate. The entire firm comes to a full halt, which is entirely legal. It's your intellectual property. They breach the contract. You withdraw the license. It's cleaner than a whistle. We can record everything. The compensation decrease, the breach of conditions, and your right to terminate. Any judge would immediately side with you. I sat there processing. What about my job? They'll probably fire me right away, but you'll have cause to sue for wrongful termination, and you'll have all the leverage. They'll come crawling back, begging you to restore access, and that's when you set your price. Mark, this could destroy the company. Ryan, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what's legally possible. Ethan made a business decision. You too can make one. There are 400 people who work there, and the CEO has just decided to cut your pay after you built the platform that employs them all. Mark's expression became serious. Ethan's words kept ringing in my head as I reflected on the $42,000 I'd spent, the missed family events, the sacrificed weekends, the nights I'd worked until I couldn't see straight, and everything else I'd done to turn a struggling company into a success. Mark opened his laptop. We drafted a revocation notice, citing every clause they violated, documenting the compensation reduction, referencing your patent ownership, and sending it via certified mail, email, and their legal department portal. It should be official and airtight. We spent the next 3 hours drafting that notice. Mark was meticulous. Every sentence was legally bulletproof, every citation was precise, and every claim was supported by evidence. By 10 p.m., we had it ready. One more thing, Mark said. You built a kill switch into the system, right? Yeah, authentication protocol. If their license status changes, access is automatically revoked. Mark nodded slowly. Ryan, once you send this notice, there's no going back. You need to be absolutely sure. I looked at that document, which was pages of legal language that basically said you broke our deal. What would you do now that you have lost access to everything? I asked. Mark thought about it. Honestly, I'd be terrified. This is nuclear, but Ethan disrespected everything you built and treated you as if you were disposable. Sometimes people have to learn lessons the hard way. I thought about my team, good people who would be caught up in this mess. But I also thought about Ethan's smug face, the way he dismissed my work, the casual cruelty of cutting my pay while keeping his own bloated salary. Do it, I said. Send the notice. Mark sent the email at 10:37 p.m. on March 19th, exactly 4 days after that conference room meeting. The email went to Ethan, Sarah, the entire board of directors, and Apex's legal department. The certified letter would arrive Friday morning. What now? I asked. Now you go home, get some sleep, and prepare for chaos. I didn't sleep much that night. Friday, March 22nd. I arrived at work at my usual time, 7:45 a.m., and everything seemed normal. People were getting coffee, settling into their desks, the usual Friday morning vibe. At 9:17 a.m., Ethan's assistant called my desk phone. Ryan, Mr. Clark needs to see you immediately. I'll be there in a few minutes, he said. I walked to Ethan's office. The door was open, and he was standing by his window, phone pressed to his ear, looking tense. When he saw me, he abruptly ended the call. What the hell is this? He shoved a paper across his desk. The revocation notice Mark had sent was exactly what it said. I'm revoking Apex's license to use my software. You can't do that. I can. You breached our licensing agreement when you reduced my compensation, so the license is terminated. Ethan's face turned red. You're going to shut down the entire company. I'm enforcing my contract. Ryan, be reasonable. I was reasonable for 9 years. I built something that made this company wildly successful, and you decided I was just a guy who fixes computers. I never said that. You said exactly that. Conference Room B, March 15th, 10:17 a.m. Quote, you fix computers. You're not exactly irreplaceable. Remember, he went quiet, so now you get to find out how replaceable I actually am. We'll sue you into the ground. Good luck. My lawyers have already reviewed everything, and I'm completely within my rights. If you want to fight this in court, we'll be there. But every day your systems are down, you're losing money. I left his office, walked back to my desk, and set an alarm on my phone for 4:47 p.m. The rest of the day was surreal. I went to meetings, answered questions, and did everything normal except for Ethan and Sarah disappearing into closed-door conferences. The legal team kept calling, and I kept forwarding them to Mark. At 4:35 p.m., I backed up my personal files to a thumb drive. At 4:42 p.m., at 4:46 p.m., I logged into the back end of my system, changed the license status for Apex Solutions from active to terminated, and at 4:47 p.m., their access was revoked. If you need anything from me, please contact me by the end of the day, as my availability may be limited beginning Monday. I watched through my office window as monitors across the floor went dark. I heard confused voices. Is the system down? I just lost everything. Is this a network issue? At 4:52 p.m., my desk phone started ringing. The CTO. I let it go to voicemail. Another call. David from infrastructure. Voicemail. At 5:02 p.m., my personal cell phone rang. Ethan, I responded. Ryan, what the hell did you just do? I revoked your license to use my software. It's in the email I wrote this morning. You broke our agreement by reducing my remuneration. You can't simply shut down the entire firm. Really, I can. It's my intellectual property. Ethan finally said, you're going to destroy us over a pay adjustment. I'm enforcing my contract in the same way you did yours when you decided I wasn't worth my salary. Ryan, listen to me. No, you listen. You had 9 years of me being loyal, building systems, fixing problems, and making this company successful. And you repaid that by cutting my pay by 25% and telling me I was replaceable. I didn't mean, you meant exactly what you said. You assessed my value, decided it was less than my compensation, and cut me. So now I'm showing you my actual value. Every single operation you run is built on my platform, and without access to that platform, you're dead in the water. We'll sue you, and your lawyers already have my contact information. Feel free, Ryan, to be reasonable. We can work this out. You want reasonable? I actually laughed. Okay, here's reasonable. You breached a legally binding contract. I'm terminating the license in accordance with the terms we both signed. If you want to renegotiate, have your lawyers contact mine. Until then, good luck running your company without any functioning systems. I hung up, packed up my desk, and took only a coffee mug, a photo, and some personal items. At 5:23 p.m., I walked out of that building as commotion exploded around me. I got in my vehicle, went home, ordered Thai food, and watched Netflix. My phone continued ringing with texts, calls, and emails, all of which I ignored. The next 72 hours were absolutely insane. Saturday morning, Mark phoned at 8:43 a.m. Ryan, you need to see this. He sent me a link to a Bloomberg article. Apex Solutions stock plummets 34% on system failure. The markets had opened in overnight trading, and news was leaking that their systems were completely down. Investors were panicking, and my email inbox was flooded with inquiries from colleagues, recruiters, and even reporters. I ignored it all until Saturday afternoon when David called. Ryan, what did you do? I enforced my contract. The entire company is dead in the water. We can't process anything. Payroll is locked, everyone's scrambling. They should have thought about that before cutting my pay. Ryan. David sighed. Ethan is an idiot, but 400 people work here. That got to me. David. What was I supposed to do? Let them disrespect everything I built? I don't know. Maybe. Would you? Long pause. No, probably not. Sunday morning brought more chaos. Stock dropped another 25%, bringing the total decline to 62%. Business outlets ran it as a major story. Some portrayed me as vindictive, while others dubbed it David versus Goliath. I received an email from Apex's board. Subject. Urgent meeting request. Body. Mr. Ryan, we would appreciate the opportunity to discuss a resolution. Please contact us at your earliest convenience. I forwarded it to Mark. He called 10 minutes later. They are ready to negotiate. Mark and I drafted our proposal on Monday morning. We sent it on Monday at 11 a.m., with a one-time licensing fee of $9 million, a $3 million annual fee going forward, full restoration of my compensation, a 40% raise to $131,600, an ironclad employment contract, and Ethan's immediate resignation. By 2 p.m., we had received a response requesting an in-person meeting. At 9 a.m. on Tuesday, Mark and I walked into Apex headquarters. The lobby was chaotic, with phones ringing non-stop, employees whispering in groups, and security looking stressed. We took the elevator to the executive floor, where the entire board of directors was present. When we walked in, Thomas, the board chairman, stood up. He was an old-school guy who had made his fortune in manufacturing and was now semi-retired but still influential. There were 8 people seated around a conference table, with Ethan at one end looking like he had aged 5 years and 4 days, and Sarah next to him, pale and quiet. Ryan and Mark, thank you for coming. We sat down, the atmosphere was tight, and you could feel it. Thomas cleared his throat. Let's be direct. We're in a crisis. 4 days of complete system failure, our market cap has dropped $1.2 billion. 7 major clients have filed breach of contract notices, and 15 more are threatening legal action. We're losing about $4.8 million per day in losses and penalties. He slid a printed analysis across the table. Numbers, projections, disaster scenarios. We need those systems operational. We understand there was a dispute about compensation, and we're ready to resolve it. Mark pulled out our proposal. These are our terms. Thomas read it and passed it to the next board member. It went around the table. Ethan's face turned pale to red as he said, "This is extortion." But Mark calmly responded, "This is a licensing agreement. You're free to decline and develop your own systems." Everyone at the table knew that was impossible. Building a replacement would take years and tens of millions of dollars, and they'd be bankrupt long before it was functional. $9 million is ridiculous. Sarah uttered her first word since we came, which is fairly reasonable. Mark remarked, "Your firm made around $200 million yearly utilizing Mr. Ryan's software for 5 years. That's $1 billion in revenue directly generated by his intellectual property. He licensed it to you for $60,000 per year. You paid $300,000 total for over $1 billion in worth." He let it sink in. The $9 million is around 0.87% of the revenue his system generated. That is extremely generous by any conceivable standard. One of the board members, Elizabeth, spoke up. "How about the continuous yearly fee? $3 million feels like a lot." Mark said that it is inflation adjusted and includes continuous maintenance, upgrades, and technical support. The industry benchmark for business software licenses of this complexity is from $3 to $7 million per year. $3 million is below the market. Thomas stared at me directly. "Ryan, I'd like to apologize personally. What Ethan did was very unacceptable. We trusted his judgment on operational adjustments, which was plainly a mistake." Ethan began to object. Thomas interrupted him with a glance. "We should have appreciated your input correctly from the start." Thomas continued. "You created something remarkable, and instead of considering you as an asset, we allowed you to be sidelined." "I appreciate that," I said. "Will you accept our apologies and agree to restore access?" "Not yet." Thomas lifted his eyebrow. "There is one more item on our proposal," I explained. Ethan resigned. The room fell completely quiet. Ethan sprang out of his seat. "Absolutely not. This is ludicrous." "Sit down, Ethan," Thomas replied calmly. "I am not going to be driven out by—" "Sit down." Ethan sat. Thomas stared at me. "That's a hefty request." Ethan caused this circumstance. He reduced my income, rejected my contributions, and violated our contract. Every dollar you've lost, every customer you've lost, and every point your stock has slid is his responsibility. I was executing the required operational adjustments. Ethan stated, "You were cutting expenses without understanding what you were cutting." I responded, "You saw a $100,000 salary and thought, that's too much for it, without trying to discover that the entire firm works on systems I designed. That's not strategy. That's incompetence." Elizabeth leaned forward. "Ethan, be honest. Did you know Ryan built the platform before you made the compensation changes?" Ethan hesitated. "Did you?" Elizabeth pressed. "I knew he'd contributed to development." "Yes." "Did you know he owned the patent?" A longer pause. "I wasn't fully aware of the licensing arrangement." "So, you cut the pay of the man who owns the intellectual property on which your entire operation is based without even reading his contract?" Ethan had no answer. Thomas looked around the table. "We need to vote. Ryan's terms include Ethan's resignation. All in favor? Hands went up. 1, 2, 3. Elizabeth, the CFO from the manufacturing subsidiary. Thomas turned to Ethan and said, "You have until the end of business today to submit your resignation, make it voluntary and quiet, and we'll provide your full severance package. Otherwise, we terminate you for cause and you get nothing." Ethan looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. "This is insane. I've been CEO for 9 weeks, and in 9 weeks, you've cost this company over $1 billion in market value and nearly destroyed our entire operation." Thomas said, "I think you've done enough." Ethan stood up, looked at me with pure hatred, and said, "You'll regret this." "Probably not," I said, and walked out. Elizabeth followed. Thomas came to me and said, "The rest of the terms, we accept $9 million and $3 million yearly. Your pay has been restored with the hike, and you have a protected contract. We'll have the paperwork completed by tomorrow morning." Mark and I exchanged looks. I added one condition. I want Elizabeth to be the new CEO. Everyone stared at Elizabeth, who appeared astonished. "Ryan, I'm not..." "You asked the right questions. You saw through Ethan's incompetence. This company needs someone who actually thinks before making decisions." Thomas nodded slowly. "Elizabeth has been with us as an advisor for 3 years, and she is the former CEO of 2 successful companies. It's not a bad suggestion." "I'd have to think about it," Elizabeth said. "Think quickly," Thomas replied. "We need stability right away." Elizabeth looked at me and said, "If I do this, you'll restore system access. The moment the contracts are signed and the licensing fee is transferred, access is restored. Then I'll do it." The board voted unanimously again. Mark and I returned Wednesday morning to sign the agreements. At 10:47 a.m., I restored system access. Ethan's resignation was already public, and he was stepping down to pursue other opportunities. No one believed it. A $9 million wire transfer was made to an account Mark had set up, and a $3 million annual licensing fee was paid quarterly. His salary was $131,600, with full benefits, stock options, and a protected contract. On Wednesday, all terminals reopened, data was restored, and processes resumed. The relief in the building was palpable. On Thursday, the stock recovered 41%, still down overall from the crisis, but climbing. On Friday, business journals reported on the dramatic resolution, which some called unprecedented, while others called it a cautionary tale about undervaluing key employees. I became a minor celebrity in tech circles. I declined all interview requests from major publications. Mark, on the other hand, was ecstatic. "I'm putting this case in my portfolio. Best contract enforcement I've ever done." When I returned to work on Monday, it was surreal. People stared, smiled, and looked away. My team, the developers and analysts who'd worked under me, actually applauded when I walked in. "Welcome back, boss," said Emma, my lead developer. "Thanks. Good to be back." David pulled me aside. "Ryan, I'm glad you won. Ethan was going to gut this whole department. You saved us." Elizabeth summoned me to her office that afternoon, and the office that Ethan had occupied for 9 weeks had changed dramatically. The minimalist furniture had vanished, as had the motivational posters, and it now resembled an actual workspace. "Ryan, please sit." I sat. "I'd like to make something very clear." She began. "What happened here was inexcusable. You built something extraordinary, and instead of valuing it, we treated you as expendable. I appreciate that. I also want you to know that changes are happening, real changes. It is being properly funded, and your team is receiving the respect and compensation they deserve. And anyone who talks about you like Ethan did will be shown the door immediately." She slid a document across her desk. "This is your new contract. Everything we agreed on plus one addition." I read it. The addition: annual performance review with guaranteed minimum 5% raise, plus discretionary bonuses based on system performance. You don't have to do that, but I do. You saved this company twice, once by building the system, and again by forcing us to recognize our mistakes. That's worth rewarding, and I signed it. Elizabeth also said that I want your input on all major operational decisions going forward, in the form of a formal advisory role. If we make changes that affect infrastructure, I want to hear from you first. Are you serious? Absolutely. Ethan's mistake was thinking he knew everything. I know what I don't know, and I don't know what you know, so I'm asking for your expertise. That actually meant something. Over the next few weeks, things stabilized, and the stock recovered to about 85% of its pre-crisis value. Some clients returned, while others were permanently lost, but the company survived. My team grew to 12 people, and I made certain that each and every one of them received fair compensation and good benefits. Elizabeth proved to be exactly what Apex needed. She rebuilt client relationships, restructured management to encourage collaboration, and actually listened to department heads rather than just dictating changes. The $9 million sat in investments, and I didn't go crazy with it. I bought a nicer apartment in Capitol Hill, paid off my student loans, started a college fund for my nephew, and invested the rest conservatively. The $3 million annual licensing fee kept coming. Quarterly payments like clockwork, with the first payment arriving in June. Watching that deposit clear was satisfying in a way I can't quite describe. People from my past reached out. Megan, my ex-girlfriend who'd left during the development phase, texted me. "I saw the news. I always knew you were smart. Sorry I didn't see it then." I didn't respond. David's wife sent me homemade cookies with a note thanking me for not letting them win. I ate the cookies. I'm still here 6 months later. The stock has recovered to 87%. Elizabeth has rebuilt client relationships, cleaned up Ethan's mess, and actually listened to people. My team has grown to 15 people. Emma has been promoted to lead developer. 2 new hires from Microsoft who wanted to work somewhere that valued technology, and the quarterly licensing payments come in like clockwork, with the first clearing in June. In July, Elizabeth contacted me and informed me that 3 companies were interested in licensing your platform. By August, I had signed contracts with all 3, which my accountant described as the best contract structure he had ever seen. I didn't celebrate, just nodded and kept working. Then, in October, something unexpected occurred. Ethan sued me, claiming I'd sabotaged operations and harmed his reputation, and demanded $9 million. Mark called me laughing, but we had everything documented. The case was dismissed, and the judge called it frivolous. Ethan was charged $50,000 in legal fees, which he sold his condo to pay. In November, Apex landed a $100 million logistics deal. The board voted me a $250,000 bonus, which I split with my team. Megan emailed me in December, saying she'd made a mistake, but I deleted it. In July, I ran into Sarah at a coffee shop and she told me I should have pushed back harder. You were doing your job, my job was to protect the company, which I nearly destroyed. She had left Apex in January and was now doing freelance consulting. She asked if I was hiring. I said no. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. It helps the channel and allows us to bring you more and better stories.